Their primary objective is to destabilize and destroy the integrity of the United States of America as an act of retribution for their past defeat. They do not aim to restore their former empire or conquer new territories. Their current mission is specific, however, the destruction of America by any means available. According to our data, the adversary does not limit themselves in their choice of means in this operation. In pursuit of their goal, they are willing to sacrifice not only the lives of individuals and political figures, but also their former territories.
It's not like America ever apologized for their wrongs. Until now, they've got the Native Americans holed up in reservations, and they're poisoning them right now with uranium. 15. Seeing the rise of Black Lives Matter, not because they care about racism or police violence, not at all, but because civil unrest is bad for business. You know, I was talking last time about how you need to understand that when the West, the sort of official voice of the West, the governments, the media, the elites, companies, corporations, so on, when they use words like morals or values, or when they use words like justice or human rights or peace or what have you, I was saying they mean something completely different than what most people mean when they use those words. But I got a lot of comments from people saying, oh yeah, that's doublespeak, or hypocrisy, or deception. But no, this is actually what I was trying to explain at that time. I normally wouldn't do a follow-up if people misunderstood what I said, but I think this is extremely important to understand. It's not doublespeak, it's not hypocrisy, and it's not deception. No, they are being completely honest. This was my point. They're being completely honest, completely accurate when they depict, for example, the genocide in Gaza as being completely justified and defensive. They're being completely honest when they said that 1 million babies dying in Iraq from a decade of sanctions was worth it. They're not being hypocritical. They're not saying one thing and meaning another thing. These are their actual values, and you have to understand this. There is a fundamental and profound difference between their values and our values. They're not contradicting their values. You must understand, they're not betraying their values. They are acting on their values with consistency and continuity. Committing massacres against innocent civilians does not trouble their conscience, any more than you stepping on a bug troubles your conscience. They don't see anything to feel guilty about. They feel that they've done something good. You have to understand this, because if you don't, you will severely and dangerously underestimate their danger. And you'll make the fatal mistake of believing that you can ever appeal to their sense of morality, that you can ever appeal to their conscience. And you'll make the catastrophic mistake of trusting them, or trusting their intentions. And wallahi, there are tens of millions of their victims crying out from their graves, telling you not to trust them.
Kings and Queens, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me today. And I want to take a moment, like I always do, to appreciate you, your love, your strength, your wisdom, and your truth. I see your comments, and I know we are in the right path. We are in the right journey. Let's keep this platform alive and powerful, and I don't take your time or attention lightly. So today, family, I need to speak on something bold, because there's a video I've seen of Professor Shahid Bolsen, and it caught my attention. Something real, something that many have feared to say, but Shahid Bolsen has come out and speak about it. And this is a powerful video. I think it will be good for you to watch it, because Shahid Bolsen has come forward and called out white America for being part of the problems of America, for being part of the foundational and ongoing problem of the United States. And he said what many black people has always been saying, because black people have been saying this for so long, that the problem of America is not black people's problem. And even a lot of professors have come out, a lot of preachers have come out and speak about this, even the white ones. When black people say about this, they call black people angry, they call them emotional, they call black people delusional, but it's coming from their own, okay? It's coming from their own. Even others outside are beginning to say it plainly. Black people were never the problem of America. That's what I'm trying to say. White America was the problem of America. So that's what I'm going to talk about it. Okay? We are going to talk, we are going to take our time to watch this clip from Shahid Bolsen. And when I come back, I'm going down across history, across systems, across narratives. I just want us to explore the psychology, the systems of control, and the rewriting of history. And I hope you'll be here till the end. Watch this clip from Shahid Bolson, and then we come back.
It's just them lying either to you or to themselves or both. But you have to believe what they do, not what they say. And like I said, when they say that what they do is moral, then that tells you what they consider to be moral behavior. Because it's not like America ever apologized for their wrongs. Until now, they've got the Native Americans holed up in reservations, and they're poisoning them right now with uranium. And I'm telling you, they're doing that because they believe it is morally acceptable to do that. No, don't you ever think that they are like you and I. They're not like us. This is incredibly dangerous. They're bloodthirsty, and they see nothing wrong whatsoever in quenching that thirst. The same way that you see nothing wrong with drinking a glass of water, they can spill your blood with the same nonchalance. And all you have to do is look at their history to know that. And they'll always say, oh, every civilization was violent. Every empire was violent. America isn't unique, or the West isn't unique about that. There's nothing strangely distinct about the West in terms of violence. Okay, let's look at the Muslims. Because this is something that they love to talk about. Muslim conquest, Muslim wars, jihad, Islam spread by the sword, and what have you, right? Part of being a Muslim is that you have to tell the truth. Whether it's for you or against you, you have to tell the truth. We don't get to spin narratives and pretend that those narratives are reality. We have to actually be honest. So I'll tell you, over the course of 1400 years, millions of non-Muslims died at the hands of Muslims. That's a fact. No denying it. Obviously, exact figures are impossible to ascertain. And the numbers of casualties in battles back in those old days are generally understood to be exaggerated. But according to historians, from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until today, somewhere between 15 to 25 million non-Muslims have been killed by Muslims. That includes the battles in Persia, the Byzantine Empire, the Levant, Egypt, and so on. The early conquests, it includes Spain, all the battles of the Umayyads, the Abbasids, the Seljuks, the Ottomans, and so on. It also includes the massacres against the Armenians and the Assyrians. It even includes the civil war in Sudan, South Sudan, Darfur. It even includes acts of terrorism by like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and others. Now, of course, overwhelmingly, the majority of those casualties throughout history have been soldiers in battle, not civilians. But there were civilians too, obviously. So over the course of 1,400 years, Muslims killed around 15 to 25 million non-Muslims. That sounds like a lot, right? That makes you think that, yeah, it's true. Every civilization, every empire was violent. So why point to the West so particularly? Well, because in roughly a third of that amount of time, the West killed 275 million more people. You slaughtered, genocided, starved, bombed, murdered 300 million people in just the last 500 years. In fact, America alone has killed in just my lifetime almost as many people as the total killed by the Muslims in 1,400 years. Imagine. You killed in just the last 50 years the equivalent of all non-Muslims killed in every war ever fought by the Muslim empires in over a millennium. That's why we point to the West specifically. Do you understand? Because that's strange. It's abnormal. It's unique. And by the way, from that 300 million that you killed through slavery, through colonization, through engineered famines, through sanctions, and through war, we're not even talking about mostly soldiers being killed. We're talking about mostly civilians. Even in your wars, between 50% to 70% of the casualties have been civilians. Yes, you stand out in history. So like I said, you know people by their deeds. You know them, you know what they believe by their deeds, their habitual, continuous deeds, not their aberrations. Okay? The Spanish conquest of the Americas, 70 million dead. British colonialism, minimum 150 million killed. The transatlantic slave trade, at least 15 to 25 million killed. French colonial wars, 25 million. Congo, 20 million. Genocide of the Native Americans, upwards of 90 to 100 million. On and on. The Holocaust, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Gaza. It doesn't stop with you. The fact is that the Muslim empire, across time, relative to its size and duration, has the least amount of blood spilt than any other empire in human history, and that's a fact. Even if you go back to the Roman Empire. Our conquests were the least destructive, our conquests were the least deadly, and the most successful and the most peaceful in integrating and tolerating and cultivating the people of the lands that we entered. Versus a total annihilation, extermination, enslavement, subjugation, pillage, and plunder of what you all did. This is your way. You were and are absolutely outstanding at it. Outstanding as in you stand out because of it. And you do that because you truly believe in it. And like I said, You really don't care if your victims are outside of America or inside of America. Because if you look inside America, what do you see? You see a society built on brutality, a nation whose foundation is violence, not just internationally, but domestically as well. The same ethos that drove the slaughter of the indigenous people, the enslavement of Africans, the subjugation of entire nations abroad, is the same ethos that fuels the police brutality in your streets, the economic strangulation of your poor, the educational deprivation of entire communities, the mass incarceration of your underclass, and the legal subjugation of so-called minority groups. I mean, just look at the statistics. You have more people in prison than any other country on earth, both in absolute numbers and per capita. Over 2 million people behind bars, and a disproportionately high number of them are so-called black people, African Americans, and Latinos. The so-called land of the free runs a for-profit prison industry where corporations like Core Civic and Geo Group literally make money from human suffering. That's why America criminalizes poverty, why minor infractions turn into life sentences, and why recidivism is designed into the system, because prisons are a business and human lives are commodities. What about police brutality? Well, every year, I've talked about this so many times, thousands of Americans, thousands, are gunned down by the very people who were sworn to protect you. Your police departments are outfitted like military units, armed with tanks, automatic weapons, treating their own citizens like they're an occupying army, the way an occupying army treats an enemy population. And who bears the brunt of this? Who are the prime targets for this domestic war? It's African Americans, Latino youth, indigenous communities, so-called minorities, members of the global majority. The same groups that have been subjected to violence for centuries in their countries of origin. And then there's your economic violence. The way your whole system is structured ensures that the rich get rich and the poor get crushed under an unbearable weight of debt, stagnating wages, impossible cost of living, on and on. How many millions of Americans are just one medical emergency away from bankruptcy? How many families are living paycheck to paycheck, unable to afford health care, unable to afford housing or education? The American economic system is not broken. Understand this. It's functioning exactly as it was designed to function, to extract wealth from the many to funnel it to the few. And if you're born poor in America, well, the system ensures that you stay that way. Your education system is not an equalizer, it's a caste system. Schools in wealthy areas are well-funded with top-tier facilities, while schools in poor neighborhoods are neglected. They're underfunded, and they're deliberately set up to fail, setting their students up to fail. And the reason is obvious, because an educated population is dangerous. An informed citizenry questions authority and challenges injustice. It demands fairness, and America's elites cannot afford that. So they keep entire communities ignorant. They keep them disempowered. They keep them hopeless, funneling them into either the prison system or the cycle of wage slavery. And we all know that discrimination in America is woven into the very fabric of your laws, the very fabric of your institutions and everyday interactions. So-called black Americans are still fighting for basic human dignity, for fair treatment in the courts, in housing, fair treatment in housing and employment and so on. Native Americans, like I say, are still confined to reservations, their land still stolen, their water poisoned, their sovereignty ignored. And all of this, the brutality, the oppression, the violence, is not accidental. It's the natural consequence of a nation built on exploitation. America doesn't simply commit atrocities abroad. It practices the same cruelty within its own borders. The same system that bombs and starves nations overseas is the same system that allows African Americans to be lynched in broad daylight by the police, allows corporations to strip their workers of humanity, and turns entire cities into wastelands of poverty and despair for corporate profits. The most dangerous mistake that you can make is to think that this system can be reformed. To think that those who benefit from that system will one day grow a conscience, because they won't. They're doing exactly what they believe is right. Exactly what their values dictate. And unless you recognize this, unless you understand the nature of what you're dealing with, you will continue to be trapped in an illusion, thinking that change will come from within a system that was designed to crush you. The brutality is not a bug. It's the system working exactly as intended. Nothing's gone wrong. The misery and the bloodshed and the savagery all fall under their definition of morality. And that completely disorients anyone who knows it's immoral. And in that state of disorientation, they get the drop on you. That disorientation is all part of their hunting strategy. When a lamb thinks about food, he's thinking about grazing in the field. But when a wolf thinks about food, he's thinking about that lamb. It's the same word, food, but two completely different understandings about what is intended by that word. So no, as a Muslim, we have to tell the truth. And I have to tell you the truth about that country. It's my country. It's where I come from. I know its ways. My ancestors were Irish, colonized for 800 years. Now you come to tell me, try to convince me that it's all because of the Jews, because of the Zionists, because of AIPAC. No, we can sniff that out right away, what that is. That's blame shifting, shifting responsibility. I mean, I could go along with it too. That's the easiest thing in the world to go along with. That's what they're going to do anyway next. That's the program. That's going to become the new official narrative. Israel blackmailed them. No, the Israelis are responsible for every crime that they committed, but every crime that they committed was on your behalf, and everyone knows it. You got a people. You have never done anything but hate for centuries to commit crimes on your behalf, colonial crimes, genocidal crimes, so that you can slither your way out of accountability when the time comes. The more you big up your so-called Judeo-Christian camaraderie, the more you big up your undying devotion to Israel, well, the more you'll be able to act like you've been betrayed. And you can justify cutting them loose. I see what you're doing. No one will ever be able to accuse you of being anti-Jewish because of all the love that you expressed, all the support you gave, and all the praise that you showered on them. But genocide apparently didn't feel like betrayal. Mass murder didn't hurt your feelings. But if they've got dirt on Bobby Kennedy Jr., that's crossing a red line, is it? If they took pictures of you at Epstein Island, that's betrayal. That's dastardly. Not murdering over 50,000 men, women, and children in Gaza. You see their morality? They'll use something like this to cut Israel loose, not ethnic cleansing. And they think that they're going to be able to wash their hands of 8 decades of brutality that they sponsored, that they funded, that they armed, that they provided political coverage for. America always needs 2 things. They need an enemy to brutalize, and they need a mechanism of plausible deniability to try to maintain their image of innocence of the brutality that they commit. Oh yes, I could go along with that narrative. You know, lay all the blame at the feet of the Jews. Allah knows there's millions of Muslims who are ready to also go along with it, because they are still so enamored themselves with the West, so colonized in their own mind, so indoctrinated with their love for America, and so propagandized and so inculcated with white supremacy themselves that they can't bear to face the reality that no one has ever had to blackmail America into committing atrocities. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The only way to make them not commit atrocities is to pay them off. They've been in the protection racket and the extortion business ever since they had a navy. But I can't go along with that narrative, that blame-shifting narrative. Yes, the Israelis are guilty, but they're nothing but a bunch of white European atheist colonizers. They're nothing but a pseudo-Jewish brigade of American imperialism. That's what they are, imposing American values on Palestine. Every century that America has existed, since 1776, every century has had a higher death toll than the last. From the hundreds of thousands in the 18th century to the millions in the 19th century to the tens of millions in the 20th century, and you're already over 6 million in just the last 20 years. You don't get to be that continuously violent, that consistently savage, and that persistently psychopathic, and still get to call yourselves the greatest country on earth unless that is exactly how you measure greatness. You understand? You've killed in just the last 2 decades almost half the total deaths Muslims caused through dozens and dozens of battles over 1,000 years. You know, you'll say that's because of technology, but you don't understand that that's nothing but an admission of what I'm saying. It's a confession. Because violence and brutality are made possible by 2 capabilities, the weapons and the will. In other words, there's no question about you having the will. So the more technologically sophisticated you become, it just means that the scale of your violence will increase. Because it's just a given that you're going to be violent. Because again, that's what you believe in. Those are your morals. Those are your values. Like, of course, we're going to kill. And if we have more efficient ways of killing, then obviously we're just going to kill even more. That's what you're saying. I mean, I know we'll never get the predator to own up to his predatory, bloodthirsty values, but at least the victims need to face the reality. The global South, the Muslim world, the Muslims in America, so-called minorities in America, the poor in America, everyone needs to know. A wolf's conscience is not bothered when he devours his prey. He doesn't see a victim, he just sees a meal. And he's not going to change his nature. He's got his hunting strategy, so you have to focus on your survival strategy. So at the very least, you have to recognize when you're looking at a wolf.
Welcome back and thank you for listening to this video. Now, I will go down to my commentary, what I think about this video. First of all, Shahid is known for his sharp political message and bold and apologetic stance on global injustices. And he's one of the guys that I watch too much. He's one of the guys that I appreciate because he talks it unapologetically and he talks it as how it is. In this video, he did what most people, especially most white people, don't have the courage to do it, because he held a mirror up to white America and told them the truth. I know we have all listened to this, but I want to talk what I think, what is in my heart. First of all, Shahid Bolsen said it clearly without standing that white America are part of the problem. He did not say all white people, no, but he said some are part. Not white people, all of them are bad. So just don't twist the message. And he talked about the culture, the power structure, the denial, the silence, the support of oppressive systems, of the refusal to change. And these are part of the problems that white America have kept alive. And while black people are constantly told to be the bigger person, to move on, to forgive, to forget, to stop bringing up race, white America has never done the real work of self-reflection or repair. Instead, they project, they gaslight, and blame the very people they have oppressed for centuries. Shahid Bolsen also touched on how maybe media and education has played the role in all this, okay? And political, they have worked together to paint black people. For example, that's what I'm saying, to paint black people as criminals, lazy, violent, and etc., etc. I will say it was never black community that was destroying America, and it was always the system designed to protect or was protected by white America. Now, let me go deeper according to my thoughts, to what I think. The lie that black people were the problem didn't start yesterday. That lie was constructed a long time ago, years ago, hundreds of years ago. It was constructed brick by brick, law by law, generation by generation. From the moment enslaved Africans were brought to America, the system had to justify that. The system had to justify itself, because you can't enslave, brutalize, and humanize people unless you create a narrative or a story that makes it seem necessary. And that's how even they justified colonization. So they said black people were savages. Indeed, of civilization, they said that black men were dangerous, black women were hypersexual, and black children were the future criminals. Now, and they put these ideas into books. They put these ideas into laws, classrooms, churches, TV shows, news headlines, and courtrooms. But the real truth is, it wasn't black people who committed genocide against Native Americans. No. It wasn't black people who enslaved millions and built an empire on blood. No. It wasn't black people who created segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, and prison industrial complex. No. It wasn't black people who brought drugs into neighborhood and destabilized other countries through foreign policy. It was not black people. I will say this with no contradiction. It was white system. It was white decisions. It was white fear. It was white control. And yet after all that, they turned around and say that black people are the problem. That gaslighting on a national generational scale, that is gaslighting. You sit down and ask yourself, am I really the person they are saying? Now, the media, like the TV stations, I want to talk about the weaponization of media and education. You know, what they did in the movies, the radio, all this, they became a weapon. A weapon used to make white violence look invisible and black resistance look like a threat. Being real, I'll say this. Each and every time a black person rises up and say the system is killing us, they will say that stop playing the victim. But when a white man storm a government building with a gun, suddenly, for example, they'll say he was misunderstood or is fighting for his freedom. The media has imbalanced these issues. And this did not happen by accident. It happened by design. When you look at the schools, Menipigia wakati mbaya, niambie. So, umekupea?
Ndio wamefika sana, ulisema wapi?
Umekuja?
No, wameniambia nikupigie.
Sawa, ukiconfirm utaangalia receipt watakupewa, confirm angalia, alafu waulize tunalipa wapi, alafu saa hii tu nilipe. And it wasn't by accident. It was not by accident. And the schools, the books our children read, they start black history with slavery. How come black people had history before slavery? They teach that George Washington couldn't tell a lie but skip that he owned slave. They mention Martin Luther King's dream but skip that the FBI tried to destroy him. You see how this narrative was going on? That's what I mean. They built a whole nation on black labor, black genius, black rhythm, black invention, and still had the nerve to paint black people that they are the problem. So we have to call it out. Because if we don't, the next generation will fall for the same trap, for the same trick. And I always say, white Americans, or white America, not Americans, white America, they fear the truth. Why? Because truth brings accountability, and accountability threatens the power they have gotten used to. So you see, once you admit that black people were never the problem, you have to admit that white people have some cleaning up to do. When you agree that, you will have to agree that white people have something to do. And that's uncomfortable. That is humbling. That requires justice, requires repair, requires change. But the thing is, black people never asked for revenge. We only asked for justice. We don't want to hear their destruction, but we want their systems of oppression to stop. That's what black people want. Or what do you want? Do you want, because black people, we're not good on destructions. Black people does not have history of genocide, masses of people. But we do not want their destruction. We want just accountability. But the guilt runs deep. And that guilty turns into defensiveness. And that's why when we say Black Lives Matters, they will say all life matters. When we say we want to have equality, they'll say maybe we are playing victim. And that's why when we talk about police brutality, they will say that, well, what about black on black crime? That's what they'll justify for. Because when you talk about police brutality, they'll say even black people on their side are like, it's always defect, deny, or downplay, because facing the truth means admitting that the problem was never us. It was always them. They fear the truth. But beautiful thing, family, is that even after all that has been done, we are still here as black people. We are still rising. We are still creating. We are still leading. Black people were never the problem. In fact, we were the solution. That's reality. We were the solution. We were the souls. We were the fighters. We were the builders, the survivors. We gave world jazz, blues, hip-hop, gospel, and soul, civil rights movement that inspired the world, intellectual giants from W.E.B., I don't know if I'm right, Du Bois, to Angel Davis. One thing with the history, sometimes these names are so hard, but I try to understand each and every part that I have to play here. Resilience of black people, we gave the world that no system could break. And we did all this while we were being called the problem. Shahid Bolson is just one of many voices beginning to say, wait a minute, black people don't destroy America. We have held America together. We all know that. We, as black people, black Americans, FBS, foundational black Americans, you have held America together. And each time I see black Americans and Africans fighting, I'm like, oh, what if one day we try to unite? It's not every day we have to fight. What if one day we have to unite? What worse could happen? With fighting, we know what will happen. With fighting, we have disunity. With fighting, we have chaos. With fighting, we have them folks coming in front and leading us. But what if we unite? What else could be done? That's why I ask my brothers and cousins, brothers and sisters, to try the unity. It is time more people to see that we are not the problem as black people. And now, I'll say this. Black people don't want pity. So when I create this video, it's not that black people want pity. We don't want to be told we are strong or resilient while the systems are still stepping on our necks. No. What we want is the truth to be spoken, the lies to be dismantled, and the white America to take real accountability. And that means that we have to teach the full truth in schools. We have to teach our children. We have to dismantle racist systems in policing, housing, health, and business, returning stolen wealth and land, uplifting black voices, not silencing them. We have to support black business and creatives. We are no longer begging for a seat on the table, but we are building our own tables. These tables that we are trying to beg here, it was built on lies. We are building our own tables. And if white America wants peace, they better start with truth, because truth brings peace of mind. And as I always say, white people are my brothers and sisters too. We found ourselves in this system and we are trying to bring it together. Now, to white America, if you are watching this video and if you are listening, we are not saying that you personally whipped slaves. No, we are not saying that. You were not there. I was not there. So we are not saying that you whipped slaves, and we are not saying that you personally wrote the laws. But if you are benefiting from the system and you are staying silent about the truth, don't you see you are part of the problem? Yes. I'll say this. If you are more uncomfortable with black people telling the truth that you are with the system, that's hurting them. So you are part of the problem. And if you truly want to be part of the solution, then let's not be defensive. Start listening, because I always say, white people, you don't have the problem. The problem is the system. They have enslaved all of us. Black people, people of color, white people, we are all in the same boat. The same way we were brainwashed is the same way you were brainwashed, even more, to see black people as less human. The truth will not kill, but silence might kill us. Black people, I'll say this, you are never the problem. And let me speak directly to a black child. You were never the problem. Black woman, I will say this, you were never the problem. The black man, you are never the problem. You are not violent, you are not dangerous, you are not lazy, you are not inferior, you are so powerful. Don't put this in your head. Don't think that you are the problem, because this is what they want you to think. They want you to think you are always wrong. But you are powerful, you are brilliant, you are necessary. You built nations, you led revolutions, you survived everything they threw at you, and still you rise. And one thing I'm happy with black Americans is that they have survived in the entire country, that they are not loved, but they are thriving. Unlike us Africans, at least we are getting it soft. White America lied because the truth scared them. And the truth is, you are the blueprint. Yes, you are. So, family, I thank you so much for being here for this powerful discussion we are having. I'm waiting you on the comment section. I want you to do something on the comment section, and please share this video. Share and like, share and like, share and like, and comment more. Shahid Bolson spoke the truth, but let's be clear, black people have always been saying it. Now, more people are just listening. Let this be a moment to stop accusing lies, or stop accepting lies, or stop accusing our other fellows because of lies. Stop begging for approval and etc. etc. Just start walking boldly in the truth. Black people are never the problem. White America just couldn't handle the mirror. I'll say this, if this message resonates with you, if I'm talking some sense on you, start this conversation. Don't let this truth die in silence. Drop your thoughts on the comment section. Let's build, like, and share this video. Bring more people here. I'll say this, until next time.